Welcome to the Middle East North Africa Information Security Conference 2021. This year's theme is cybersecurity vigilance, continuous monitoring and mitigation, understanding the impact in a 5G era.
Assalamu alaikum, good morning. Welcome to day 2 of the MENA Information Security Conference, our 9th edition. This year's conference theme is cyber vigilance, continuous monitoring and mitigation in a 5G era. The 5G era has great optimism and promise with it, with our ability to improve the livelihoods of everyone across the world, namely in medicine, where we have telemedicine and telesurgery, where doctors are able to work on patients from across continents, where nurses are able to gather information from artificial intelligence databases that have combed through hundreds and thousands of scientific papers. You know, today, cancer research is one of the prime research avenues that is taking place. There are almost 3,000 cancer articles that come out in 1 month. Imagine how difficult that would be for a doctor to be able to keep up with the new innovations and research with cancer. Well, with artificial intelligence, it can comb through all the petabytes or all the tons of data that exist out there on that subject and come out with some recommendations. So this is going to improve the way we provide healthcare for the world. 5G also gives us the ability to interconnect our devices, our homes, our cars, our cities, all together to provide a more greener world, a more efficient world, and reduce our carbon print. So today my brief is around security orchestration, automation, and response, commonly known as SOAR. The problem that SOAR solves is that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of cybersecurity companies out there, with new ones created almost every month, partly driven by venture capitalists who are investing in starting cybersecurity companies. Another part of it being that there's a cycle of life for cybersecurity companies, where you have 3 people leave one cybersecurity company to start another. But nonetheless, out of good intentions to solve many problems, we have a lot of different cybersecurity companies out there. The average enterprise owns anywhere between 30, 40 to 70 different cybersecurity products within its own enterprise. I would also propose that managing complexity is a very difficult strategy. And with defense in depth, these products layer on top of each other, most of them point solutions in an ecosystem with no cohesive way of communicating. This is a big challenge for our security operations centers and the security industry as a whole. To compound the problem, there are a large volume and velocity of alerts that are coming into our security operations centers. It's true, some of them are false positives, but there are a lot of them that are true positives that are being missed by the sheer volume and velocity of these messages coming to us as alerts to our security operations centers. We don't have the resources, and a lot of times these alerts are just getting missed. Qualified technical staff is another big challenge that SOAR will help us address. Today, in 2021, there are over 3 million job openings for cybersecurity professionals. Almost 2/3 of the cybersecurity companies that we interviewed felt that they didn't have enough skilled cybersecurity professionals, as well as 3 out of every 10 cybersecurity professionals that came into the field actually didn't have the background of information technology or cybersecurity in the first place. And today, only 14% of the workforce in cybersecurity are women. What a great opportunity for the improvement of women in the cybersecurity field. SOAR will also help us with security operations centers maturity advancement. Most of us today have probably a tier 3 security. Tier 1 is typically a new company who's just starting off with a level 1 of support and being able to look through logs in a manual fashion. Tier 2 takes it a step further, where they have maybe a red team introduced or a blue team introduced. Tier 3 has more of an incident response approach and has the capability to address semi-manually, but mostly manually, a lot of the challenges they have. Now, a Tier 4 Advanced Security Operations Center has now begun to take automation into place and begin to take their standard operating procedures and automate them in some form or fashion. A Tier 5 is a sophisticated security operations center that has most of its standard operating procedures automated using machine automation as well. At the core of SOAR technologies is what's known as playbooks. And playbooks are just like playbooks in sports, where you have a certain strategy to meet defensive procedures that you want your team to adhere to. A playbook could also have an offensive strategy that you would like to score a goal with. So playbooks are at the core of SOAR technologies, and there are three types of playbooks. There's the manual playbook, there's the semi-automated playbook, and there's the fully automated playbook. There are 4 different types of automation when building your playbooks. One of them is defensive, where you're looking to protect against a certain attack. The other one is forensics, where you're looking to gather information in an automated way to get evidence. The other one is offensive, whether you want to block a port on a firewall or an IP and have it automated. And the last one is deceptive automation, where you want to have interaction with deceptive technologies and control those in an automated manner. So, after you build your playbook, after you decide what type of automation you have, now there's the action plans. And then there's 3 types of action plans. One of the action plan types is enrichment. Am I trying to get data fed into my common management database, my CMDB? Am I trying to get threat intelligence to be able to enrich my data or my ticketing system to know more about the adversary or the threat coming up to us? Another one is escalation. Do I need to escalate this? Is there an action plan if an adversary comes in and the threat is deemed very active? How do we escalate the process? And the last one is mitigation, the action plan where you come in and you mitigate the risk or you reduce the risk by doing a configuration change on a device. A common methodology of decision making in the United States is called the OODA Loop. The OODA Loop was actually designed for fighter aircrafts to be able to orient and fight in combat in live, win or lose, live or die battles in the air. This concept was actually designed in a fighter mentality, but took over and became more prevalent in business and marketing. So what does OODA Loop stands for? First of all, observation. Second of all, orientation. Third, decide. And last, act. Now, a great example or use case of an OODA Loop strategy where we're observing, orienting, deciding, and acting is, let's take an endpoint EDR solution that notices a threat and then feeds up the data to a forensics team. The forensics team later does its analysis and has to go and search certain threat intelligence tools to verify the threat. Then maybe a URL or a reputation lookup is done on the type of threat that is done, or if it's a malware. A sandbox is invoked to go and detonate the malware. A lot of manual different components that could be easily automated with the correct playbook. Another great playbook to automate a threat is a phishing email attack. There are a lot of steps that you have to take in this. Number 1 is you have to detonate the file. You then have to review the hash. Number 3 is you have to do a reputation lookup on the URL. You have to, number 4, block the IP on the firewall. Number 5, you have to delete the email from all other people who received the email. A lot of manual tasks that can be automated and turned into a playbook. Another use case is malicious network activity coming into the network. your cyber threat intelligence alerts are starting to send off warning alarms. Your forensics team begins to investigate the logs. Services and IT assets have to be engaged. A whois, an NS lookup, all need to be done manually by the IT team. A lot of manual tasks that can be automated. Vulnerability management, patch management. By no means is SOAR going to replace this technology and the extensive work that it does, but it can definitely improve it. Things that you have to do from a manual perspective is you have to query the vulnerability across different databases and verify that it's still active or it is relevant to your environment. You have to query the Common Management Database, the CMDB. You may also have to query your SIM or your EDRs. All this can be automated and made easier for your vulnerability management teams to be able to express patch management in a more efficient manner. Another great area for SOAR to benefit is managed security service providers, MSSPs. Now, MSSPs are going to be growing dramatically in the future. One of the reasons why is a lot of these companies now will help you monitor and focus on your cybersecurity operations, opposed to you having to encompass all the risk and all the activities and all the expenses that come with running a security operations center. So if you're running an MSSP, having SOAR technologies is going to definitely help you become more elastic in your ability to manage those different customers and especially the different SLAs you have. That agility in being able to manage SLAs also gives you the ability to customize each one of the ways you manage each customer differently, and most importantly, show that you are providing incident response and a response time that is speedy. The average response time today is anywhere between 10 hours to 3 days. Best case scenario, 10 minutes. So SOAR definitely helps you improve in response time of solving the adversary's attacks on your networks. So SOAR helps in so many different ways. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the right people and the right skills trained up, it's going to be a difficult challenge. At VirtuPort, we're a big believer that the people and the process are at the root of the tree. The root of solving the problem is your people. They are key personnel in your organization that's going to secure and defend your organization. So when we look at how we do training today, we send our cybersecurity folks off to a 5-day boot camp or a 5-day classroom setting training where they're sitting and they're watching a PowerPoint presentation and they're watching a lecturer talk about whether it's an OEM technology or whether it's a methodology in cybersecurity. And then comes a few little labs during the class and they get a little bit of practice. And this is a great start, but it isn't the real way that the next generation cybersecurity, what at VirtuPort we call the cyber trooper, has in the ability to meet tomorrow's and today's challenges. Much like we train firefighters today. A firefighter will go through an academy of training and they'll go through classroom training. They'll go through CPR training. They'll go through emergency response training. But the classroom training is not where it stops for a firefighter. A firefighter will actually be put through drills where there'll be a building on fire that they have to run through. They will have to carry a cohort on their back and carry a very heavy hose as well. They'll have to wear their gas and oxygen masks. They give real-life simulation training to the firefighter. This is what we need to do, and what we propose at VirtuPort for training your cybersecurity personnel is put them to real-world simulations, real-world cybersecurity attacks, beyond the old capture the flag and hackathons, more into sockathons, more into simulations, more into real world, real live a simulation of attacks that just occurred in the last 24 hours and pose the threat to the cybersecurity trainee so he becomes a cyber trooper, opposed to a bookworm or only have book knowledge or certifications with no real hands-on experience. So cybersecurity training can also be very boring, to be frank. You're sitting in a classroom for long hours of day. It's good to get away from work, but you're having to absorb, all this information coming to you like drinking out of a fire hose. But what if you could make it fun? What if you could turn cybersecurity into a game where you're competing against other teams, where you're competing against other individuals? So the gamification of training cybersecurity, giving prizes to the cybersecurity winners, and being able to collect their intelligence, but also keep their attention is a key function that we're going to be focusing on at VirtuPort in the near future. Another way to look at cybersecurity training is as if you were learning to be a pilot to fly an airplane. A lot of pilots have to go through an academy or a lecture training where they're sitting there in a classroom and they're learning about all the different instruments and all the different types of flying activities that they will be proposing to them. But they also have to go through a simulation of flying an airplane, landing an airplane. The simulation brings it as close as possible to the real world flying as a simulation does. And this gives the pilot some simulation hours, lecture hours, hands-on training again to be able to go and fly an airplane. We want to offer the same thing to our cybersecurity professionals out there. Give your cybersecurity professionals simulation tools, cyber ranges, SOC-a-thons, advance their technical skills, train them to be real cyber troopers. Also with the training, you have to future-proof your training. The attackers and adversaries are changing the game. We talked about this yesterday. They're dynamic, they're maneuverable, they have the advantage. They're trying new techniques every day to penetrate our networks and some old techniques. You have to inject the latest scenarios, the latest attack threats, the latest cybersecurity threats into your training so that you future-proof the training and that your people, what they learned last year, has not become outdated. Today's quote that I'm going to use, that I also used in day one, was by the Prince, Machiavelli, who had the 27 rules of war. Whoever is more vigilant in observing the designs of the enemy in war and endures much hardship in training his army will incur fewer dangers and can have greater hope for victory. Thank you for attending the MENA Information Security Conference the last 2 days. I hope you truly enjoyed and benefited from this conference. I do want to give you some good news. All the speeches will be available on demand for the next 30 to 60 days for you to come back and watch. So come back and visit the conference. You'll be able to watch all the videos. You'll also be able to go to the exhibition hall where the exhibitors used to be and download their white papers that they left behind for you and all their documentation and maybe watch a video or two. So there's going to be a central repository for you to come back to in this conference for the next 60 days to thank you for registering. We also, part of thanking you for registering and giving you your continued professional education credits, will get a certificate of attendance that you attended this conference where you can redeem for 16, if you attended both days, 16 CPE credits. If you attended one day, you'll get 8 CPE credits. So I want to thank you, and I also want to thank our sponsors who dedicated their time, resources, and energy, as well as money, to helping you benefit in your cybersecurity lives and professions. Thank you and have a great evening.
Now, to thank our sponsors who have dedicated resources, time, energy, and money to bring you the premier information security conference, the MENA region. Special thanks to our diamond sponsors. Thank you to our platinum sponsors. This year's conference will have delegates across the Middle East and North African region from the countries Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Oman, Egypt, Jordan, Qatar, Kuwait, and more. Post-conference activities continue through the year with one-on-one meetings with the experts. Also, half-day workshop roundtables in the fall of 2021 for personalized training and roundtable discussions for deep-dive business and technical discussions. A special thank you and appreciation to our keynote speakers. A thank you to our thought leadership speakers.